Hey guys, welcome back for another review. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel about cameras and sometimes speakers. Now I haven't done any speakers in a while, just due to the fact that manufacturers don't seem to be pumping out Bluetooth speakers much anymore. They're all moving to the voice assistant speakers, which I do have one planned ahead with a Bose home portable speaker. Plan to get on that one and do a review shortly of that, so stay tuned for that. But that's my channel, speakers and cameras, and today we're talking about cameras. So if it's something you like, please subscribe and like, and then here we go. Today's a little unusual video and might not suit a lot of people. Some may not care at all. Some may say, why are you doing this comparison? It makes no sense. Well, it makes sense for me. It might make sense for someone else out there that is possibly putting this camera in their hands, the RX100M7, and wondering how much better is something like this at 200 millimeters versus this, which has an equivalent to roughly 200 millimeters advertised. How much better photos am I going to get from this versus this guy? Now I know this is going to be better, but how much better? And is it this good enough for what I want to do? Well, again, that's all going to depend on what you want to do and how detailed you want your photos. So what we got here today is the Sony A7R3. I used to have the Sony A7riii. I sold that one to get this one used because I consider myself a cropper. I do a lot of recomposing later on and punch in on my photos. So I need that extra megapixels to do that, and that's why I got it and why I'm happy with it so far. This guy over here is the Sony RX100M7. It is the latest and greatest out there. I keep that little microphone on there all the time. It's audio jack. This has the zoom equivalent to 24 to 200. So if you can see that, 200 here, 200 here. Which is better? I can make this pretty short for you. This is obviously going to give you a more full frame look, be able to punch in on your subjects. If we're out in bright, clear, sunshiny day, this is going to give you a great image. This will give you an even better image. Will it be good enough for sports? This guy is incredible. This camera has the ability to have zero blackouts when you take photos. Now you're like, well, what does that really mean? Well, let's say your kid's running down the soccer field and they're running toward you and they're about to score a goal or they're moving in the process of it. You hold this bad boy down and you have enough photos right there to make a 20 frame second movie if you wanted to stitch them all back together. But it fires with zero blackout, so you can see your subject inside your frame the entire time when you do it. And it's a feeling unlike I'm used to with photography, where you can sit there and just blast away at 90 miles an hour taking these photos, and pretty much most of them are going to be in focus because this does borrow the same processor as the A9, one of their faster sports style cameras. This is a fun camera to have. Very simple, of course, and we all talk about convenience. This is kind of why I made this video, is the convenience factor with this camera at 200 millimeters will give me just as good a results as this guy, close enough at 200 millimeters, and I don't have to bring this whole big setup here, right? I mean, I can fit it all in a frame. Well, you can take this off. This is just the cap, and it's a little bit shorter. There you go. This all depends on what you're looking for. If you're taking pictures professionally, obviously you want to use this. If you're taking pictures for fun and for family, this guy will do just well. Now, things change completely when we talk about poorly lit environments. It is wintertime over here in Maryland, and my kid is playing soccer, indoor soccer, where the lighting in there is horrible. I'll show you some pictures inside with both cameras, but the lighting is not well suited for photography. This guy does a pretty good job. Even when I start cropping on this guy, the noise level gets really, really intense. Not as bad as this guy. So This guy, your normal picture, if you just take it, looks okay, but if you crop in any bit, you would see noise immediately with this 1-inch sensor versus a full frame sensor. Which, obviously, of course, if this guy matched this guy at low light, well, what's the point of this? This guy, nobody would buy these cameras. If that's going to be a factor for you, or you'll be taking photos inside, maybe for sports, indoor, or you might be taking kids' pictures for holiday stuff, I would bring the bigger sensor camera all day long if I can to get better photos at night. This guy is going to give you better photos than your iPhone, which is what I'm filming on right now because these are my main two cameras. So I had to resort to filming with the iPhone. So it's iPhone 11 Plus that's we're filming with today. And I got it hooked up to an external microphone, the old Zoom, to plug in to switch out the audio. So hopefully the audio is a little bit better than the standard iPhone. We're gonna look at some photos now and go over those. This is has an F4 aperture, and when I go to 200 millimeters on this guy, it goes to f4.5. We're right now shooting with the RX100M7 indoor soccer game. Lighting is I blurred out their faces so to protect their identity. It's not my kid, so I don't want to put it on the internet. This is shot at ISO 2000 at 120 a second at f4.5. So this is basically at 200 millimeters. 72 millimeters is basically the equivalent for 200 on this camera. So this is all the way zoomed in. And I did not crop on this photo, but we will punch in a little bit here and kind of see the detail. This is the kind of grain you're going to get with indoor stuff, especially at a higher ISO. If I go any lower ISO, it gets too dark, and then you try to pump it up later on, and it's either here or there. But definitely a better shot and better outcome than a cell phone would be. Plus, you couldn't get it 200 millimeters anyway on a cell phone. So obviously, this area was in focus. This caught some focus over here. So look at the lettering, and we see a lot of grain and a lot of Okay, here's another photo. This is at ISO 1600, 1/200 per second, f4. What camera is this? This is still the 100 Mark 7. Let's punch in here. You can see the grain and the skin. That's where you see it the most. We can punch into the writing. It's not that bad. And this is not in focus in the back, but we have a lot of grain back here. Overall, decent photo if you don't crop in. But these are the kind of results you're going to get indoors with the RX100 Mark 7 with that 1-inch sensor. Alright, this photo here, this is my kid, so I will keep her up. We're now using the A7riii. I have the Tamron 2875 2.8. This is where you notice the difference, especially look at the skin punched in, not as much grain. You can actually see some of the freckles. We'll go into the face. You get a lot better texture on the face, a little more clarity. Obviously, it's a lot bigger file, so we can the exposure level we can get to. We can pump up the contrast, and we can bring it down a little bit. Bring up the shadows. Take the shadows away. And so I'm using Capture One here, and they have a way to play with the whites and the blacks now in the shadows. That way you can pump the shadows up and then bring back your blacks a little bit. Like that. Anyway, you can always play with this kind of stuff. But the main thing is that you're going to get benefit from that larger sensor, especially indoor lighting like this in sports. Another shot. A little more clarity, a little more detailed all in the hair and everything else too that you can get. So that's where definitely the larger sensor will win in low light settings. Alright, let's move on. Again, indoor setting. This is the A7riii. It's a 400, 1/60 of a second at f4. And we'll punch in a little bit here. Very good clarity. Still getting good details everywhere inside. You can see it's stitching pretty well in here, all along here, and nice crisp corners. Alright, so here's the same settings. 400, 1/60 is, again, so it's at 4.5 versus 4, so it's a little bit darker. And we'll punch in here. Pretty good for as much as you crop in here, but obviously not as good as the A7R3 in detail, which makes sense. And we're still in like an office low light setting, not outside, nothing really great. 200 millimeters. We'll jump in. This is pretty clear up here. But really smooth background. Really good blur back here. You can actually get some little bokeh balls right here going on in the background. Let's jump over to the sign. I focused on the lettering of the sign, and we can creep in here pretty hard. And almost make out the numbering again over here. A lot of good detail. A lot of nice blurred background. So here we are with the RX100M7. Same photo, same spot, location that I stood. Pretty much try to match everything I could equally among the two cameras to get the most comparable image we can go after. Alright, last time we were able to read some of the numbers over here, or at least make them out. Let's see what we got. So not much. It could be a reflection, but so in bright, good sunshine, nice shot. I mean, you don't have the blur background back here, but it's still a very crisp image. Here are your two matched up. Let's see, we got pretty much everything's the same, but again, we have the 0.5 difference in the aperture. 1-inch sensor, full frame sensor. Gives you that buttery, smooth look, a little sharper, a little more contrasty, a little more noisy. Both at 200 millimeters, or the equivalent, and that's what our difference is. Alright, so let's see if I can play with this guy and brighten it up in post. Brighten up in post and see if I can pull some of the shadows and make it look, well, it's not going to blur the background out. Look at the difference between the two. This pretty much you have everything in focus. This one you have just the sign in focus. And that's what that sensor is going to do for you. Folks may not like this at all. They may prefer this image because they can see everything they want to see. The numbers on the wall, the details in the brick. And this is like, oh, this is all blurry back here. What's the point of that? They may not like to separate the subject. Everyone has different taste. Versus the buttery smooth look. Okay folks, I hope this review might have helped make a decision for yourself, whether you want to get just a pocket camera or go all the way with an interchangeable lens. There are so many options you can go to. There are so many levels you can go into between this. You can get into the APS-C line with the 6600 or all those 6000 ranges, or you can just go for the pocket camera and be happy with it. Or if you're able to do it, you can try to acquire both. Maybe find some used. I'm right now sticking with the RX100M7. I'm not going to sell that camera yet. I think it's going to serve me well on vacation. Or I don't feel like bringing the big guy, and I just want to bring a good camera that works better than my cell phone. Then that's what the RX100M7 is for. It's also one of my main primary video cameras. I could get a great video out of that camera, slow motion. I could put it on a gimbal on my Crane M2 and have it that way. It's got great stabilization, the RX100M7. versus the A7R. So, but that's a whole other side of the scope. Please like and subscribe if you can. It just takes 2 seconds to click a button. Helps me out a lot when it comes to making a couple of cents off these videos. If you want to see more of this kind of content or something different involving these cameras, leave me in the comments below. Otherwise, have a wonderful day and stay active. One thing I want to mention about this camera, about if you're interested in buying this camera, and what some of the things I think that stand out from it. I'll put this big guy aside. I use this camera a lot more for video, and it is a fun little camera to use. So how I use it on slow motion is I will slip it over to the HFR, high frame rate. I stay around 240 frames a second because I think that comes out the best for video quality. If I get a little crazy, I can go up to 480. I don't ever use the 9 something, almost 1,000 frames per second. It gets really grainy. You better be very in bright sunshine outside and just use it as a gimmick kind of thing. So I keep it around 240, and what I do is I put it on in trigger. So basically what the camera does is that you have to prepare it. You hit the button, it will prepare what you're about to shoot. So basically it locks in all the settings. You can't change them until you either stop recording or hit the button again to get out of it. So what it's doing now, it's basically recording right now. Internally it's recording, and then it gets to a certain point and it dumps. And it's until you hit this record button is when it's going to actually write to your memory card and keep it there. So you pretty much hold it. If your kid's playing any sports, hold it and wait for something to happen. And when it does happen, don't worry that you missed it. You hit the record button right there, and it jumps back a few seconds to capture the video that just happened. So if you're filming your kid, you're holding the camera, they score, you come up here and hit it, and it will jump back in time and record that last couple of seconds. And it comes out pretty cool slow motion. That way you're not sitting there burning and filming everything and then later on going back and having to edit that stuff out and keep what you want later on. This is the way basically it just captures the shot you want to get. And you can go back for a very small clip and edit that instead of having a big movie, if you want to do it that way. Now, is it the best quality that you can get? No. But it's really, really good, especially outside in the sunshine. That's what's fun about the camera. Especially for vacation. This is kind of why I got this camera, and I still have this camera. I don't want to take this everywhere, especially like on a vacation, on a cruise, and have to go off the ship with it. And then also you're in a foreign country and you break this big boy camera out and it screams, "Target, please come steal my camera." And it's heavy and it's a pain. Now, would I want this camera? Yes, of course. But sometimes all this big gear is really not worth it. Maybe take something like this and you'll get great photos, and it won't be a big burden in your bag whatsoever. Can you use your cell phone? Of course you can. Are cell phones getting better? Absolutely. Are they catching up to these? Yes. But where this guy wins is zoom. And that's kind of why I think they went away from the 1.8, because I was getting too close to cell phones. And one thing cell phones can't do right now, unless you buy big external lenses that look kind of weird on the cell phone, is get decent zoom quality. So that's my little beef. That's my little talk about the RX100M7. Great little camera. It can do a lot of different things, and they're fun. It's a fun camera to have in with you. This is a work guy. That's a fun guy.